A series of crimson alerts swept through the Combat Information Center of the USS Theodore Roosevelt at exactly 0347 hours on March 11, 2026. 48 identical low-altitude contacts simultaneously less than 22 navigation south of Keshem Island were detected by the AN/SPY-6VV3 radar. An impossible scenario. It was not an aircraft or a missile. They were underwater-launched, autonomous drone swarms, roused from the bottom like a mechanical plague, each armed with a 15-kilo warhead and screaming at 45 knots, 3 meters under, at the ship. The Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group was manacled in the central Strait of Hormuz after Tehran's latest high-quality nuclear escalation threats and had walked into a kill zone 6 months in the making. In 412, 4-minute impact, 72 hours back to a routine intelligence intercept, reveals how the world's mightiest navy was brought this close to disaster. The NSA SIGINT installation at RAF Croton intercepts an encrypted message that is beamed through commercial satellite relays and resembles maritime shipping traffic, but originates at Bandar Abbas. In Farsi, the only thing in the decrypt that was chilling was the one sentence, "The garden is blooming." This was the activation code for Iran's greatest naval trap ever, Operation Hadid Talon. Only part of it had been known from a defector in the IRGC's Electronic Warfare Directorate. What the Americans had known previously was that Iran had been producing underwater drone capsules for launching. However, what they were not aware of was the magnitude. The 48 capsules were equipped with 4 Shahed 728 underwater attack drones each, and the missiles had been transferred hiddenly on the bottoms of 3 commercial offshore natural gas platforms owned by front companies registered in Oman and the Marshall Islands. These platforms have been only 11 days since neutral authorities inspected them. Nothing was found. The capsules were buried under 12 meters of reinforced concrete under the platform legs and behind pressure doors that can only be opened with a special sound code from the IRGC command post on Keshem Island. Iran had converted civilian energy plants into a firing range of missiles that were underwater. The throat of the world, the Strait of Hormuz, through which 21% of the world's daily oil passes, had become the most dangerous water on Earth. Before we go any further, was the U.S. Navy being a bit irresponsible to have a carrier strike group inside that little, small and tight choke point? Below, answer in a comment whether or not this statement is true. At 0349 hours, Aegis Combat System was switched to manual supervisory control by the tactical officer. The drone swarm was operating at 3 meters deep, where it was below the radar detection floor of SPY-6. The contacts were found by the ANSQS-62 variable depth sonar on the destroyer USS Paul Hamilton, in the wake of the high-frequency whine of 192 individual drone motors being turned on at once. To sonar operators, it seemed like a swarm of angry hornets rising from the ocean bottom. However, it might be possible for sonar to determine the centroid of the swarm without target resolution being sufficiently accurate to guide SM-6s to intercept the swarm. The waste of ammunition would be idiotic. Rear Admiral David Kunkel at once directed all the escorts to turn on AN/SLQ-32 V.7 electronic warfare suites in active sonar barrage. Paul Hamilton, Carney, and Hopper deployed a towed array sonar and started buzzing at top power, blurring the drone's inertial navigation. At the same time, the carrier was performing a hard turn to port that violently disturbed the ocean waters with the wake of its 97,000-ton hull, which was also adding speed at approximately 28 knots, physically disrupting any drone surfacing below. By 0351 hours, a squadron of 48 drones had popped up in a string 800 meters long, their sensors in touch with the carrier's thermal signature. The drones were around 2.5 meters long, in the shape of a flat, matte black wingless torpedo. and were towed just above the waterline at 40 knots. The Phalanx CIWS fired on the escorts, spluttering 20mm depleted uranium shells at 4,500 per minute, forming walls of tracer fire. Moneylending was purposefully targeted by these drones, which erupted geysers of money spray and shrapnel. But there were more than they could handle. For every individual drone that was killed, 2 other ones were able to get past. A cluster of 8 fired upon this ship's starboard side, just breaking the waterline at the stern. But 3 hit above the waterline, and the ship's own starboard CIWS destroyed 5. Shaped charges broke through 50mm steel plating over and flooded the aft pump room and a void space next to the rudder machinery room. This carrier shook violently, but recovered without losing a bit its power of propulsion. Damage control teams were running through corridors within 90 seconds. On the battlefield, he is injured, but he continues fighting. Meanwhile, the E-2D Hawkeye at 25,000 feet spotted a second set of phases. A salvo of a dozen Qadir-3 anti-ship cruise missiles, an improved version of the Chinese C-802 class missiles with a range of 180 kilometers and a sea-skimming terminal profile of 2.5 millions, were fired from 12 mobile launchers in the Iranian coast near Jask. These were the showing of the previous ones, the kill shots that were meant to maximize the chaos and deliver when defenses were full. The Aegis system discontinued mitigation of the air threat once all the drones were disabled by the launch of Mk-54 torpedoes from MH-60R Seahawks. 4 SM-6s were launched from the USS Carney. They reached an altitude of 3,000 meters, and then they dived on the cruise missiles at Mach 3.5. 3 kills confirmed. A 4th Qadir-3 broke through the screen and locked onto the superstructure of the carrier. 1 Ram Block 2 was fired from the C-Ram launcher, intercepting at 1,800 meters in a dazzling flash. Despite the first 2 waves, the carrier survived. AIPCO saw this as only the beginning, however, led by Admiral Kunkel. The drone swarm, missile salvo, were diversionary hammer blows. The actual spear in a secret place remained. A tow of the Paul Hamilton then picked up a low-frequency pulse, that of a Ghadir-class midget submarine riding the battery at periscope depth, dead still directly under platform Pars 7, the largest hijacked platform. The command and control node was the submarine, and an encrypted data link in its periscope was the source of the acoustic trigger codes. Netanyahu cautioned that Iran might attempt the launch of more waves from at least 96 drones still buried in the legs of the platform, as long as it was still working. Badly, it was being held under an area where natural gas pipelines were under pressure. But a hit by any single hit could have caused the platform to explode and set off a blaze that would have left the strait impassable for months, wreaking havoc on the world economy in an even greater way than 1973. U.S. Navy located the submarine, but could not shoot. At Oral 403 loads, Kunkel authorized the SEAL Team 8 team aboard the USS Lewis B. Puller, 40 nm to the south, to make the direct action assault on platform Pars 7. Goal, once on the platform, get down to the substructure and find the acoustic trigger control panel and cut the hardwired to residual drone capsules before a second launch code is sent. The second one would use underwater charges to sink the underwater shelter of the Ghadir submarine. The Nokia units were also said to show the IRGC in the process of preparing another trigger transmission. This process takes about 18 minutes. 2 MH-60S Nighthawks were seen at dawn at Nap of the Earth, approaching from the south, with light pollution from Bandar Abbas as background for the 2 aircraft. 14 SEAL personnel were loaded up and fast-roped onto the top deck. The platform looked deserted, with some orange lights flashing. IRCG fast attack craft prowled 2,000 meters away, and the platform's infrared motion detectors and pressure plates inside were on. They had been supplied by the Chinese. The electronic warfare expert in the team filled the grid with counterfeit signals and established a loop where the last state that each sensor received was the one which it was currently reporting. The platform was blind during 12 minutes. It took until 0416 hours for the lead element to get to the central access shaft. They came across a welded steel bulkhead, which was not recorded in any schematic at the Atomenos level. IRGC modified the platform following inspection. It was broken open by a frame charge and contained a room with temperature-controlled air and a lot of server racks, fiber optic terminals, and one acoustic projector horn, looking down through a watertight opening towards the bottom of the sea. This was the room used as a trigger room. At the console, the hands posed up, was the only member of the IRGC wearing a dead man's switch, a pressure release device strapped to a radio transmitter. A last firing code would be sent out to any remaining capsules at the same time if his heart failed or he lost his grip. The 14 best operators brought to their senses with a man and a button. When the time was 0422, the remaining time was 11 minutes. The team leader asked for permission to use a precision shot, a single 5.56mm shot fired to the medulla oblongata to instantly kill without the muscle spasming to release the switch. The team's marksman, one of the chief petty officers with 17 years' experience, stationed on a raised pipe assembly 7 meters away. He tightly gripped his HK-417s, locked the red dot onto cervical vertebrae C1. The shot would cut the spine at the brainstem and give zero involuntary response. The tech's eyes were big, and he was staring at the infrared lasers. His hand trembled. A few minutes before the window, i.e. 4428 hours, the shooter breathed out and pulled the trigger. The silenced rifle had a clearly stapler-like sound. The technician fell and continued to hold the switch tightly in his stiff hand. Then a second SEAL came charging in and picked it up. At the same time, the electronic warfare expert directed an EMP at the server arrays, effectively burning out the circuits on each array. The sound projector displayed a black screen. 96 other drones wouldn't wake up ever. The second element exploded underwater charges at 0431 hours. The access tunnel collapsed underwater. 3 minutes later, the Gadir was obliged to come up to the surface, surrounded by United States Navy RHIBs. Realizing that their ship was a sitting duck for its 13 guns, its crew of 11 laid down their arms without firing a shot. Damage control had been successful in stopping the flooding by 4500 hours. According to the carrier, it listed 2 degrees to starboard but was still running. The platforms were shored up. Iranian Navy fast attack ships withdrew to Iranian waters. The strait was kept open, but oil prices spiked 14% overnight, but insulated themselves. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said it was a display of unparalleled naval superiority. However, the celebrations shrouded a grim truth in top-secret Pentagon briefings. The drone capsules were serial numbered, but not Iranian, but to a joint Irano-Russian facility outside Astrakhan. The acoustic trigger protocol is similar to one in a leaked technical manual for a GRU system found by MI6. The Chinese CH-01 recoverable missile, a Chinese CH-01 dead CHP, and a dead CHP recovered by the Philippines Navy were found to have a similarity in the guidance code with that of the Shahed 728. Operation Hadid Talon wasn't Iranian. It was a test bed, a live fire exercise to practice killing carriers in a smaller volume of water with asymmetric multinationals. And it had gathered data. Telemetry information had been sent by the drones prior to striking the Roosevelt. The IRGC was provided with a detailed knowledge of the radar gaps, CIWS response times, and how vulnerable a Nimitz-class carrier was when it hit the waterline. That data had already been encrypted and had been uploaded out of the Americans' cyber reach. Platform Pars 7 was just one of 7 identical platforms located in the Persian Gulf, Gulf of Oman, and Northern Arabian Sea, showed the crew of the Ghadir. 3 which were fully loaded and running. The March 11th trap dismantled was the smallest of all traps. The U.S. Navy is on high alert as Iran issues new threats. But the true threat is not the one you can see, already too far under the next platform, in the next choke point waiting for an order that will not come with a warning. Today, the Theodore Roosevelt is sailing with a 2-degree list and a leaky hull. But its strategic wound is to its calculus, maintaining a safety blanket for American carriers over the past decade and more. The giant has been recorded as bleeding in the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf, where, in those cities as in Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing, knowledge outweighs any missile. If the carrier strike groups go away from the Strait of Hormuz, or would that guarantee an Iranian victory without a shot? Then how will Iran perceive the rest of the world? Take your analysis and post it in the comments. If this dissolution highlighted the secret structure of contemporary naval warfare, hit like and subscribe. Our next classified file on Russia in this network will be unlocked in our next video.